Okay, to make a tape loop, we are going to need a cassette that has the screws like this one. Some cassettes are welded shut like this one, and they do not have any screws. These are really not worth trying to mess with to make a loop with. Fine to re-record on, but not for making loops. Alright, so we're going to open up that cassette by just removing these screws. Okay, so now we can just take that first shell off, and oftentimes you'll have this little, sometimes it'll be clear, sometimes this time will be gray like this. We're not going to save this, we're just going to throw that away. Then we're just going to take out our tape. If you were going to be, you could be reusing these. In this instance, I am not reusing this tape, so I'm just going to push the reel out and then find the end. I have a little razor blade over here that I only use for the cassettes, and I'm just going to cut this off as flush as I can. This tape, how it works, kind of goes into a little plastic retainer and back out. I don't want to pull that retainer out, because without that tape in there it won't really stay in place. So I just want to cut it off and leave it in there. Like that. And like that. So it's pretty smooth there. And then again, I'm not going to use that. Put the first reel back in, and we'll just do the same. Same to this reel. Okay. And I'm just going to throw all this away because I don't need that. So this style loop is going to be basically like this. Just a single loop around both reels. I'm going to be using some pre-recorded tape here. And I already know that for this style loop it is 9.5 inches. This mat works out perfect for this. Before I do that, I see a little kink here, so I'm just going to cut that off. This tape was a 60-minute tape, I believe, that I just recorded a single tone on one side and then a different single tone on the other side. And then I've just been using this to make my tape loops for an instrument that I sell on Etsy. See a few kinks. I'm just going to jump past all of this and give myself a nice square edge. So I'm just lining up alongside one of these lines, and then I'm just going to chop it straight over here. So I'm actually going to put my finger over here. Okay. As long as I'm right on the line there, I can get a square edge. Oh, hard to do, line up over here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that is a nice square cut right there. So 9.5 inches, it's right there. I'm going to actually put my finger back behind here so I can move my left hand up around my finger here. So 9.5, keeping the tape right on the line so I know everything's square. I also probably should have pointed out I have this little cutting block that I will use for taping, but not necessarily for the cutting. So 9.5 is right there. I can just do that, push it down, and a nice square cut again. So now I'm done with that. Now that I have my finger on here, I just basically do this in one motion. The tape will be stuck to my finger because of the slight bit of moisture. And I can just place it right into the block here. You can just push it down into the grooves. I could use this as a cutting it through here. I just feel like I get better consistent without any tears or anything on the mat. So now I'm going to just kind of tuck this in here. Previously, for working with the tape, I was using a screwdriver like this, but off screen I have a magnetic strip that I have been having it stuck to, and that's been magnetizing the tip. So as I've been working with the tape, it was causing little pops and issues I didn't really realize until quite a while later. So I've been using this little plastic tool that comes with a soldering iron. A toothpick would work, or something just that's or if you have it's just a screwdriver that's you've never put it on a magnetic strip like I have. So I'm just going to use this to tuck this kind of in place. Alright, it looks pretty square, so I'm just going to back it off a little bit right there. Alright, and now I will just lift this over and get this tucked into the other side. Okay, once I got my finger on it, I can just kind of guide it into place and kind of overshoot the gap, because then I can easily pull it back. There we go. I don't really need to tuck it all the way back. That's enough, I think. Just smooth a little bit. Alright, so that's pretty good for now. Okay, now that I got the tape all placed, if this wasn't a square cut right now would be the time I would slice it and then push it together, but it's actually pretty good right now. So now that I got the splice all good and square, I'm going to get my tape prepped. I have this tape, special tape for splicing. This is from spliceit.com. Same place I got this little cutting strip. I'm going to use a separate set of scissors that I don't ever really use for anything else, just to kind of keep it nice and clean. It's kind of hard finding the edge sometimes. There it is. So I always end up wasting a little bit every time, but that's fine. There's a ton of tape. I'm not going to get through this tape anytime soon. So basically when I did that, I scratched it up and it kind of folded in on itself, and that's the bit I'm going to be wasting. So I'm going to overcut some more than I need, and then I'm basically just going to grab that little messed up part and then use that as a handle so that I can cut what I need. About, I don't know, so it's about 1/4 inch maybe? I don't know. That might be too much. That's how much about I usually do. Okay. Here's where I previously was messing up and using a screwdriver that was stuck to the magnetic strip, and it was messing something up, messing the connection up. So I'm just going to use this plastic tool. Probably would be better if it was flat, like a little screwdriver. I'm going to stick it on the underside. There we go. So my whole point is I'm trying to not touch the tape at all, the bottom of the tape, and just so it doesn't lose its stickiness. To me, this is probably the hardest part, getting the tape right. Okay, so because our seam is nice, but if I stick this on crooked, I'm never going to pull that off. I'm going to mess up the tape trying to pull it off. So you got to get it stuck on right on straight the first time. What helps is getting the tool, whatever you're using, square to the tape. Mine is a little off, so that makes, but it's okay. All right, so I found the big part is not breathing out as you're doing this. So I'm not going to talk and breathe in. Alright, there we go. And then I'm just going to take the tool and kind of make sure it's nice and smoothed out and stuck down. Okay, so now we're going to gently get it out of here. I've messed these up pulling them out of before, just at an angle, I guess. Okay, so we got our tape loop pulled out of our block, and now we just need to get it into our shell. I'm just going to move one of the reels in. I always do the left one, but it doesn't really matter, I guess. And I'm just going to drape it over this one, and over this one, and over here. Okay. Just like that. And like that. That's it. So that one's in, and now we just need to get this part. Let me zoom in here. Okay, so just by draping it in, we got here and here in the correct spot. And we just need to get this all into this little groove, which can be quite tricky sometimes. I found the best way is a constant breath blowing on it. It will kind of pin it in, and then you can kind of drop it in place. And so let me show you how I do that. There we go. I just blew along here and it held it in place, and I was able to just drop it in. And now all we do is slide this one up in place, and then we can push this down to check for tension. I may have done this one a little slightly loose. Usually my center is about right to the center when I pull down here. Actually, now I see my problem. I went on the inside of this pin here. But if I go back on the outside, it will be a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. So that comes down to right about the center. And that should work. So we'll reassemble this shell. And again, when I put this on, I will just blow along here, and it'll push the tape back, and it'll allow these little legs to go where they need to go. Alright, I'm not doing something right. Let's see here. I think this metal plate was getting pushed back. There we go. So my screwdriver is magnetized. It picked up the screw there. Not really concerned about using it close to the tape at all, unless you're actually touching the tape like I would previously was, but doing this is not really a concern. Even over here on the close sides, I haven't had a problem there. Okay, so now let's test out our tape. And again, this is my instrument I have for sale on Etsy. If you're interested, a little cassette instrument. Press play. Let's tune it first a little bit here. Alright, so it's just playing when you hold the key down. So if I hold it for long enough, the tape will go. We should hear somewhat of a seam, so we'll see how good of the tape job I did. That's actually pretty good. There wasn't much of a loop or a gap at all in that whole loop, so let's hear the other side of the tape. It's a little bit higher pitch sound that we might be able to hear the gap a little better. Actually, that's really good. I'm like having a hard time finding where that gap is on the tape. Alright, and that's pretty much how I've been making my cassette tape loops. If you're interested in purchasing one of these instruments, please check in the description below. I'll have a link to my Etsy shop. Alright, thank you. Thanks for watching.